You're listening to the episode of Mr. Alley's Neighborhood. This is a place where we're entitled to Brad's opinion. Now for your host, Brad Allard.
And just in case you're wondering, Taylor does that live every show. He's multi-talented. I'm sorry we're
feeling sick.
Yeah. Sorry we're late. I was talking to Mr. Mitchell here about school stuff, and we looked up and it was 11:01 on the big clock. And so we got just kind of lost in the conversation. So we'll try to make up the time. But anyway, I hope you all are doing well. It's a beautiful day outside.
It is.
And we're going to talk about what we learned yesterday at the Chamber of Commerce Summer. We talked about, they showed videos, talk about security issues, and also they had one very good promotional video, which Ms. Hill will release publicly, she said next week, and one of them she already has, and we'll show that on this show. But we're going to talk to Caleb Mitchell here, who has been active in both in his internship with his issues of security and curriculum, and we're going to talk about what he's learned in his campaign and what parents are telling him and what their concerns are, what their praises are, things of that nature. But before I actually jump into that, I want to point out something to the audience. Yesterday, I was at that summit, and I sat next to Shandy Stogsdill along with Jennifer Woods and Lisa Boltinghouse, and I'm bragging because I was sitting with high-dollar celebrities. Well, after the show was over, or the presentations were over, and we were leaving, I saw Mr. Mitchell, saw Dallas Owen, I saw Shandy Stogsdill, all three get together, and they had the most pleasant conversation and genuinely was supportive, and it was the friendliest campaign I've ever seen. And I just think sometimes we get washed up with these other campaigns that are less pleasant, but y'all were, mutually supportive, and it makes me feel better that whoever wins,
Absolutely.
the other two will be on board and supporting them.
Yeah, we've already made that commitment to whoever wins that they have our full support, and whoever chooses to run next year will have the support of the other candidates.
Well, that I would hope y'all would, whoever the two that do not make it, give it strong consideration for next year. But I just thought that was pleasant. I think you should know that, Burleson, that not every election campaign has to be a hair-pulling event. It really was just, it was very good to see that. But before we jump into all those issues, let's thank the sponsors for making these people available to you, because we're going to have a lot of the candidates on in the next 2 weeks or so. CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. Check out CrossFitBurleson.com for the plans and the training and the classes and whatnot. It's a supervised workout. It's a plan to work out, and you'll be able to achieve your goals. You won't have to kind of wander around figuring out what you're trying to do, because they'll help you do that. So CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. Shandy Stogsdill, whom I mentioned earlier, was at the event yesterday. She's on the show regularly as a real estate expert, which she is. And she also, of course, is running for the same spot as Mr. Mitchell. And like I said, it was a very uplifting thing to see how well y'all relate with each other. She'll be on next Tuesday, and so you can have some questions then. Also, thank you to Otto. His place is packed, as always. I've gone into other restaurants about the same time, like mid-morning, and they're kind of half full, half empty. I've hardly ever seen Otto's place that wasn't at least 90% occupied, and I've had to wait. And I'm a big shot, dadgummit, and I've have to wait. You go there about 12:30, you're going to wait. You go there about 9:30, you might get a seat.
I made the mistake of trying to go on Easter.
Oh my Lord! Well, one time took my wife. She had a Friday. She wasn't working on a Friday, and it was a Friday holiday. I think it was Good Friday last year, and there were people parking in the Lowe's parking lot, and I could see a line out the door and all this other stuff. So he's doing just fine. Thank you. I like to say it's because of his great advertising strategies, but whatever. Thank you also to Chris over at Wild Cigar and Culture. Get yourself a smoke, get yourself a decent drink from the bar. You can have a good conversation and hear yourself think. That's a big thing for us old men. I'm well past the Yahoo stage and woohoo stage in sports bars. I like to have a conversation, and you go in there and you see a lot of the same people because it's become a pretty well-established hangout. So thank you, Chris, over at the Standard. Thank you also. Also at the Standard, we have Tiffany Nico. Well, actually, she just moved. I just remembered that. Well, anyway, she's moved because she says she's always out, so she got herself a spot that's more central for her. Anyway, she was on the show about a week ago, and so you check out her advertising rates for the summer. There's some specials there. It's summer advertising, lots going on. So give her a holler, look on localifetx.com, give her a phone call. I've sent a couple people her way because she goes to nearly 30,000 homes every month, and it's very direct advertising.
Wow.
It's probably, I like to think I'm a big shot advertiser. I'm a small fry compared to Tiffany. I mean, she's very targeted, and she does a great job. Also, thank you to Southern Jim. Gayla's there now, so is my wife. It's on the top of the floor at Windmiller, and I see her every Wednesday at the BNI meetings, and I keep asking, when are you going to move downstairs? And it's always, we were getting close, and then something happens. So the goal is by Mother's Day. If that doesn't happen, then maybe by Memorial Day, we'll find out. But it's people who've been in it, like my wife who works there said it's beautiful. It's really going to be very nice. So Southern Jim, it's Mother's Day coming up. So remember Mama, the women in your lives. Because they made us what we are.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. And First Due Detailing, Caleb Patino. You could reach him at 817-776-0478. That's 817-776-0478. And he'll come to your home or your business and power wash your car, detail it, the whole thing. And he has a whole bunch of different price packages for you to choose from. So give Caleb a call. We're on his schedule, but you got to be a couple weeks out because a lot of people taking advantage of this deal because, go and get your car detailed. You'll be without your car all day, or you think, but if you're at your place of business, you don't want to even miss it. So First Due Detailing. Also, another BNI friend, which Caleb is and Gayla is, Thrive. We had Dee Dee Simpson on last week, and she can help you with your marketing plans, your whole business plans. She can help you with the communication with clients. She can help you with invoicing. She can help you with social media. She can help you with being able to keep contact and promote your business. It's a really, it's a full package. So call Dee Dee at 520-955-7860. That's 520-955-7860. And she can help you get your business out there in front of the public. And another BNI friend, Texas Farm Bureau, Melissa Harmon, 682-804-0534. I got her to look at my insurance about 4 months ago, and I didn't really think I was going to get a better deal than what I had because I had a pretty good insurance company, and but I was able to save money and upgrade my insurance on my house in particular, which is important at this time of year. And
especially with all the hail storms we've had.
We thought we was going to have hail here, but it apparently hit Mesquite instead. But I've had several people tell me they really are glad they're with Texas Farm Bureau because they're emphasize service so much. So, let's see. Yes, there it is. Our newest one, Lisa and Morris Smith. Stop Restoration. They're going to be on in about a month. They were on before, and we talk about what they do. They clean up wind damage, water damage, particularly mold damage. That's their big thing. And we think that, have to have some sort of natural catastrophe, which we will need them if we had bad hailstorms that ruined your roof and got water inside and all that. But really, a lot of their business is, the water heater leaked and it caused all this mold damage, or a toilet leaked and it destroyed the flooring and stuff like that. And that's what they do. They clean this up and they get it worked out and they get it together. And they got us well trained at BNI. They get it right the first time. That's their motto. I just saw them today. In fact, I went by to visit for a minute on the way here, and they're good people. So call Lisa and Morris Smith if you have any kind of those home catastrophes. And Sunday, big day for Harvest House over at the Lost Oak Vineyard and Vibes. It's going to be some music. It's going to be some wine. It's going to be some entertainment. It's a fundraiser for Harvest House. So get your tickets. Go to the Harvest House page and use the QR code and get your tickets. If you don't do that, go there on Sunday. You still can get in, but it's going to cost you $20 instead of $15, which they'll be glad to take. So, and you also can buy some wine ahead of time and donate it to other people, I guess, or just have it available for people just to come by and visit. So you want to buy yourself a glass and maybe buy a friend a glass or an unknown friend. Who knows?
And Lost Oak's a really nice.
You bet it is. It's become a place where a lot of receptions are held and a lot of fundraisers are held, and it's a good place, and the wine's good too. So there you go. We also going to have some more nonprofits after this next week. One of them is going to be from Crazy 8 Ministries, and I'll be talking about that more next week. But they just scheduled an appearance for a big thing they got May 13th, so we'll be talking about that.
Yeah, that's going to be big too.
Yeah.
Hey, Lisa.
Yeah. Okay, so yesterday we're at the State of Education. Shout out to Gabrina Daniels, as usual. A great performance, good food for
Great job.
Frescoes.
They did a great
The
job.
food was good. I like
Oh,
Frescoes.
it was good.
Yeah, and I've been really fortunate that I'm sitting here in this seat after a few years of work for the district. And I've said this to many people that when you're working in a classroom, that's your focus. But now I'm out here, I've been able to see more globally what the things we're doing. And I'm really, really pleased at the direction our district's been taken. Now, there's bumps in the road and all this other stuff, but I think we're moving in the right direction, and we're doing it pretty well. Has that been what you've seen as you've gone from the community as you've gone out and campaigned?
Oh, absolutely. The majority of our neighbors and our friends in the community have nothing but positive things to say about Burleson. There are some things that they wish they could do better.
For sure.
But yesterday was kind of a testament of just how great our district, especially when it comes to safety. I mean, I know we're going to talk about that a little later, but compared to some of the other districts and the Metroplex, I believe that Burleson has really put a lot of time and effort and invested a lot of man hours and research into creating a program to help ensure that our students and our teachers are safe. So I have to applaud the district in that aspect. And most people are just, as parents, they get frustrated with trying to navigate through the red tape.
Right.
To how, whether it's getting access to a Google account or a Skyward login password, or whether it's being able to go into the school and actually have time when they have issues with their student to work with the counselor and assistant principals. Those were just really some of the main concerns that a lot of parents have been addressing to me, is that they get frustrated with that process.
It's interesting you brought that up, because I had Rob Duke on Tuesday, and he said the same thing about the navigating the website, navigating all the pages to what they want is like a one-click system. Where do I go and put money in my kid's account? Where do I do this and that? And that may be a good guess for me to have, because Michaela Hill, who directs her communications and whatnot, sends me people once a month now. Yesterday was a conflict with that state of the education address and all that other business, so we had to bypass it. But I may ask for somebody that deals with that next time, if we could do that. But that has been brought up a couple times, not just by yourself, but a couple of your fellow candidates.
Yeah, and because a lot of people I speak to are dads or men, and they're like, well, if I'm trying to work and I'm trying to do all these things, so I don't have time to invest in really going through all the emails and all these, finding out how to do this. A simplified process will make it easier for me to get involved. Because that's something I've realized, is that I think a lot of time it's assumed that dads are not as actively involved because they choose to. A lot of times it's just that they have other things that become priority. And so they have to do paying bills and working. Because that has been my consensus, is more men have come up to me and said, hey, I want to be more involved. How can we make that happen?
Well, you mentioned the last time you heard about a mentoring program. Are they talking about that as well as other things, or they want to be more involved in their own children's education? Or is that what you're talking about?
I think it's both, because being myself being a mentor and not having my dad actually involved coming up through school, it was other men and mentors that kind of helped guide me and get me to the place where I am today. And so as I've been out in the community and speaking at different forums and talking to different people, I've been asking, how can we develop a program like that in Burleson so that we can help those young men, and not just young men, but young ladies, as we was talking about before. How can we help them navigate through life and get them prepared for real world? Because we also realize that everybody's not going to be college students. Some people need to be prepared for real work. Some people may want a career in the military like I did. But in those in-between times, if you're not actively involved in sports or any extracurricular activities, you have a lot of free time. How can we come along, whether it's with the district or with the city, and create a program so we can give you resources and skills and abilities to help you become just a better human?
Right. And you're right about dads, because, you look at a lot of the families I taught, and it was the dads that often they said, "Hey, call me," instead of his mother or whatever,
Right.
because I want to know what's going on. And traditionally the woman would handle, the wife, mother would handle a lot of this kind of stuff we're talking about. But I know you're right, though. A lot of men felt almost excluded, and they want to be part of it. Now, me as a teacher with my kids coming through the system, it was easy for me to keep track. And I was very fortunate. Both my kids I never had to worry about their academics. But the point is that a lot of men sometimes say you feel like they're out of the loop. And we're not talking about because of stressful marital situations. They just don't get involved as much. Mama takes care of everything, and so that would be a good idea. But you're right about back to the website. I think you're right. I don't know if there are any plans for them working on it, but I wouldn't doubt it, because one thing I've noticed about BISD is they do respond to parental concerns, and they're pretty proactive. And when they see a concern, they usually don't wait until it becomes a big problem. That's one of the hallmarks, I think, of Dr. Jimerson's leadership.
Yeah.
You've gotten to know him pretty well, I guess.
Yeah. We was having just a quick conversation yesterday, and I really feel, like I was telling you earlier, that he has a heart for the district. He's not just, it's not just a job for him. He really cares about the students, because he takes time and he invests his time and his energy into making sure that the students are doing well and that the district is doing well. And I'm excited to see what happens in the future, because as the district grows and we become more diverse, and we're kind of being stretched in some areas.
Yeah, that's the hallmark of a growing district. Is you're going to, the money is going to get tight in certain ways. When you're talking to the people, to BISD parents and residents and whatnot, do they bring up financial concerns very often?
Yeah, they do. But the crazy thing is, most people simply have the statement, well, the district is spending too much money. And you ask them, so what are they spending it in? They give you that deer net. They're just spending too much money.
Well, they see the budget and they see their tax bill, and my tax bill isn't slight, and the BISD budget is significant. So I don't really blame them for thinking, man, we're sure spending a lot of money. But I do think if a lot of residents had a more detailed understanding where that money's going, they may answer their questions. And I know the district is very transparent about this, but it also takes some time to navigate yourself through a budget the size of BISD's. It
does. And I've been in the school board meeting where they discuss the budget. And a lot of times it's just that, as parents, going back to that, if you're not at the school board meeting, if you try to go to the website, or you have to do a public records request to get the information, that stuff is not easily to find or to navigate.
But one thing also, unless you're really involved in it, if I looked at a number on an account and a budget, I would not know if that's excessive or not. I would have no point of comparison. Are we spending too much or too little on this? All I'm seeing is a number. And so those kind of questions are better answered by people that have had long experience with this. But, so here's my budget. Okay, are we spending X amount of money on that? That's crazy. Well, we may be underspending. And another thing, also, a lot of parents, and I had to learn this myself, is a lot of money is required by the state and the federal government to be spent. So if they think we're spending this whopping big sum on Project X, we may have been told by the state of Texas that's how much you're going to spend, and just get your mind right.
Right.
So that kind of understanding of school budgets. That's something you have to acquire over a course of time, and a lot of people, they work for a living, so.
Yeah, and I know one thing. I know if you ask the question, so where is this money going? One thing that I've seen the district not shy away from telling you, so this is what we're spending the money on. And one thing I tell parents, I say, your vote and your voice, it has a place. If you have questions, ask those questions. I think a lot of people would rather complain about it than actually inquire about it to get more information about it. And I think a lot of times I encourage parents to be more informed, get involved, come to the school board meetings, look at last year's budget and look how they spent money last year, to see how this money is impacting your student. And as you see that, then if it doesn't look right to you, ask the questions. Why are we spending X amount of dollars on whatever?
Is it possible, or maybe you already do this and I missed it, but is it possible they could have like an open forum? I mean, yeah, have it at like either Pathway or First Baptist and say, hey, we're going to go over last 5 years of budgets or last 3 years and so here's what the increases have been. Here's what the requirements have been. Here's what you should look for if, as a layman that isn't trained in budgets, because I have a business degree, but if they put the budget in front of me, I'd have only the barest understanding of it, and so, is it possible we could have some sort of open seminar, similar like we had yesterday, the State of Education? Say, we're going to spend an hour, have some food, and we're going to say, here's how this works, and this is what you should be looking for. And if you have, concerns, at least your concerns are going to be based more on reality as opposed to just perceptions.
Well, I know that they do at the school board meeting. They go over the budget. I don't know if I haven't been at one where they compare the budgets. I don't really think that's a bad idea, because so kind of in church, most churches they allow with them being a nonprofit organization, the information is public record.
It is.
So maybe that's something that we could consider with this. Once I'm on the school board, and we can.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. There you go.
We can consider that.
Well, it just like in my church, and as well as in yours, we get the budget every year, and we are given opportunities to review it, ask questions, and I have some understanding of what we're spending our money on for children's ministries and whatever else because I've been there a long time. But as far as the complexity of a school district budget, though, that's a real issue. And plus, I will go back to this other point. I don't think people realize just how much spending is mandated by outside authorities, particularly the state of Texas. Everybody wants to blame Joe Biden. Believe me, I could blame him for anything. I woke up with a headache this morning. I blame Joe Biden. All right, but the state of Texas is, if not more so, at least as demanding on schools as the federal government is. And so that's something that I think maybe an educational summit of that nature would be good for the district.
And I think, breaking it down in layman's terms, because the truth is the budget is public record. Like if they wanted, they could request to get information for the budget. But like you said, understanding it. And me, I'm not a numbers guy. I'm a creative. I'm a words guy.
Right.
But it will probably even help me as well. Because one thing I bump into a lot of people says, well, I don't have kids in the district. I've never had kids. So why do I still need to vote?
That wears me out. I mean, it's like the quality of your community. Shandy will tell you, as a real estate agent, that's the crime and the schools are the two things I ask most about now, when it comes to a community. Here's the thing also. You mentioned that they do this at the school board. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but school board meetings can be a beating sometimes, all right?
Oh, you don't have to tell me.
Yeah, right. Because you go there and, and you have everything that every little group within BISD of kids, they won this award, they did this art project, and they go through all those presentations and all this other stuff, and then you go through all this other business that, and then you get to what you came for. So that's one reason I don't know if a school board meeting would be the best venue for this, because it's like, I've been to them before, obviously, and you go, all right, how many more kids are going to get their picture made with Dr. Jamerson?
And with the Burleson being as great of a district as it is, our kids are winning all these awards, everybody.
So if you had like a seminar at another venue, like I mentioned, like we did yesterday, I think it changes the atmosphere of it. And if you have a little snack or food go with it, something like that, or maybe that's what I would suggest. But just doing it, say, hey, come to the school board meeting, we're looking at a budget. People go, oh, geez, and it's going to last forever. And if you had one, well, because they are open ended, so I've been through them that gone into past 11. So if you had like, okay, from 7:30 to 9 or 6:30 to 8, we're going to do this. 8 o'clock, we're going to be done. That kind of thing. But anyway, let's talk about what we talked about yesterday at the State of Education. Among other things, they had Hill College there, and they had the Texas Tech representative there because they worked together. And I think we're way ahead of many districts in our relationship with those institutions.
Yeah. Like the Burleson Opportunity Fund.
You betcha. In fact, I'd like to make a shout out to that. The gentleman from Hill said, we are having so many applicants coming out of BISD schools for the Burleson Opportunity Fund that they may have, for the first time, have to either give less amounts or have a lottery. So, guys, we need to pick up our giving on that, because that is one of the very, very best things we do for our communities, invest in our kids like that.
Yeah, and I was talking to Lori afterwards just to get a little more information.
Lori. Oh, it's all right.
She's with the Burleson Opportunity Fund.
Okay, I got you.
Oh, she would kill me if I.
I know. I'm bad with names.
So scratch that name.
Okay, yeah. All right.
So I was talking to her afterwards. She's saying, but unfortunately they haven't had to use it. But the opportunity for students to get access to those dollars, I think we should make sure that fund stays active and continues to grow, so that students in Burleson can take advantage of that, because that really is a great opportunity.
Well, a lot of the teachers I know had money deducted from their check voluntarily. Okay, voluntarily, please. Like my wife and I, we set aside $20 each in our checks for the BOF, and I know a lot of teachers that do that. So, but sometimes people outside of it don't realize they have a chance to donate it as well. So check out an opportunity if you want to give back to the community in the most concrete way possible, practically. Yeah. But we also talked about, when Dr. Jimerson was there, talking about security issues. And let's watch that video that we saw. I was touched by it. I recognized a couple of old friends. Jack Goldman, if you know him from Burleson days, everybody knew Jack Goldman. And then I saw a couple of other old friends of mine in there I did not realize were working for the district. So it's great. So Taylor, if you'd run that clip, please.
My name's Curtis Brandon. I'm Richard Morris.
Cameron Pilgrim.
Dietrich Jones.
Officer Scott Bartlett.
Gary Gray.
Nick Grace.
James Engel.
Brad Schaefer.
Officer Travis Brown.
Nicholas Thorne.
Casey Martin.
Woody Holman.
Brett McDonald.
John Dana.
Stacy Singleton.
Jack Goldman. I'm the school safety officer for Klingscale Elementary. BISD's evolution in regards to safety is very innovative. I started as the first and only SRO, divided between a high school campus and a middle school campus. Since that time, the program has grown by a number of officers and will continue to grow this future school year. In addition, adding the SSOs to the elementary school, it just exemplifies and shows the district's initiative with regards to safety. It's good to be home.
Safety is guarding the welfare and the health of these children.
Providing a safe environment for students.
The safety of the kids, the teachers, and the community.
Safe place to learn and to teach for the students and the staff.
Creating an environment of security.
Doing my very best to keep my students and my staff at my school safe.
That kids can come to school and feel safe, and parents can send their kids to school and know that they will be safe.
Protecting the students, the teachers, the visitors.
Safety in schools is paramount. This experience really has been unique in the sense that you really do get to see how students develop over time when they come in as freshmen, how they mature, just the changes people make as they grow.
I mean, these are our kids. I'm a parent. I've had 2 kids come through and graduated from Burleson High School. It's, these kids are our families, our futures. It's everything.
I didn't expect as much positive feedback as that we get. I mean, the first month that I was here, almost every parent that was coming in was, "We're glad that you're here. We're glad to see that you're here."
In this job, working for BISD at an elementary school, the kids are so nice to you, the parents, the teachers. I just love it.
This position in itself is extremely important to make sure these kids make it home at the end of the day.
Our main focus is to let the teachers teach and feel safe, and let the students learn and feel safe.
But it's brought me so much joy.
But it's important to me. The students and the staff are now my family. And I feel like I'm taking care of my family.
Safety is the priority.
The number one priority.
Highest priority.
Top priority.
Our number one priority.
Priority number 1.
Safety is our number one priority and our only focus.
Didn't it get you? I mean,
it hit
did.
you right here.
You know, I didn't know that some of these men that I knew were working for this program. Woody Holman, for example, old friend of mine, retired Fort Worth police officer. Nick Grace, a former student, and a very fine man. And Stacy Singleton, everybody knows Stacy. I mean, he's a great man. And Jack Goldman. I mean, Jack Goldman's a legend with the BPD and with BISD. And you know, I was touched by it. It really was, because it was obviously, you know, we saw the gentleman towards the end kind of got emotional, right? A little choked up. It just what it means to him. And I can promise you, and I can promise the parents that listen to this, literally, if you want somebody guarding your children, these are the men you want.
And I remember over the summer when they was talking about, and they was putting this together, when they was going through the applications, they were very meticulous and methodical about who they selected for the program. And you see the quality of the candidates that they have.
Right. I knew it'd be a very serious process of hiring, because you just didn't want just anybody, because we saw what happens in Uvalde when they don't do their jobs. And I promise the parents that won't happen in our schools. If we ever had that kind of situation, these guys are going to be right front and center, and they'll take a bullet for your children, to put it pretty bluntly. So I think that's one of the best things we've done.
And, you know, having a student currently in the district, it does my heart good to know that I can send my kids to school knowing that they're safe.
Well, my wife was in Centennial where Brad Schaefer was, and she just had the best things to say about Officer Schaefer and how he interacted with the kids. And see, if they're thinking these are like, you know, security guards, all these security people interact daily with the children. You know, Jack, and then Jerry Stringer also, when he came on the campus, he's a former commissioner for the district. You know, those two men knew the students. They knew their names. They knew their situations. And, you know, so I think we're very blessed. Now, again, you know, not every district does that.
Right.
Most do have some sort of security, but I think we took it pretty seriously. And to be clear about it, this wasn't something that was spurred simply by the Uvalde. We were talking about this prior to the events of Uvalde, you know, like a month or two. Scott Shehay helps run that security program, and I talked to him off the air. Yeah. I'd like to have him on the show sometime. And they've been talking about that for like at least 6 weeks prior to all that tragedy down there. So,
yeah, and just the planning and the execution of it was just impeccable. So shout out to Dr. Jemison and BISD for this.
Now, you may not have been directly involved in it, but you were kind of in around the area, so you heard the conversations.
I did, and it was very, very intentional. I remember the school board meetings and how intentional Dr. Jemison was about the safety and security of the children.
Well, knowing his personality, I'm sure he's quite intense in bringing that message across. But that's what you want. You don't want to say, "Oh, well, geez, we got to do this," and I don't really have any ideas. You want somebody that's, you know, got their hair on fire about school security. And there's other things though that, you know, as you've been part of the district and you've been a candidate for the district, what are some of the best things you've seen? And we talked about some you like to see change with the websites, but some of the best things you've seen about the district.
I really think that we have teachers and educators that care about the children, that want to see our children do well. I think we have people in individuals in administration that care about all students. They want all students to win and succeed, and that they make an effort to make that happen. I always like to. Whenever I talk about Leanne Arthur, who's over curriculum,
right?
Who, when I was doing my internship, she gave me an opportunity to just kind of sit in and see kind of her process for that. And over the summer, when they were getting ready for this revision of the STAR test,
right? That's not as easy as it sounds. I can promise you. Every time the state changes the parameters of that STAR test, there's a lot of man hours or woman hours as well.
Yeah, and watching them run around with their heads on fire. Because
well, it's the state of Texas is not an easy boss to work for. I can promise you, because they make these changes arbitrarily, and a lot of them are made not by educational professionals but by legislators. They're made by some legislator out in West Texas and whatever else, and so everybody's got to hop to it. But every time they change the parameters, requirements, and STAR test, there's a lot of time that has to be put in to accommodate that.
Right. And not only mention the revision of curriculum over the, so they were doing all of this over the summer and watching them manage it and still get ready for convocation and still get ready for the start of the school year. And
have you been to a convocation before?
I did not go to convocation this year.
Yeah.
So hopefully I plan to go this coming year. I mean, I'll probably be on the school board anyway. So
there you go. You're going to have a seat up front. But, well, that's it. Jimerson puts a lot of time into that as well, and he's willing to be made fun of. You know, I think that's a pretty good sign. I mean, Robin, my wife, you know, went to the last one, and they joked with him a lot, and he's a good sport about all of that. But and as far as the convocation, it's like, oh, well, as a teacher, oh, geez, I got to go do this. And you get there and you're glad you did because you've seen a lot of your old friends you haven't seen in 3 or 4 months, or in some cases a lot longer if they teach on other campuses. And sometimes there's, you know, little goodie bags and stuff like that. That's
having
good.
friends in education, convocation is not always something they look forward to.
Well, you're sitting there for about 5 hours, but so they do their best to make it as entertaining as possible. For me, in service, that whole period of August, you know, after a while, it's like, I know what I'm doing. I just need about 2 days, and that's it. You know, so, Ann, I told you Ann Rose is Leanne's mother, right? On the screen? Yeah, all right, there you go. You were pretty willing to be part of the fun of the convocation yourself. See, I remember being silly in a couple of those things, and, you know, teacher talent show stuff and whatever else. But as far as, you know, you're talking about some of the better parts of it. I think the teachers, you know, what's been my experience is that a lot of teachers really do a really good job, and the parents are like, thank you very much, and they move on to the next stage of their child's education. And they'll either remember the ones they like the most or the least. And so that kind of maybe sometimes if they had a bad experience with a teacher, well, regardless of what the reason is, that's what colors their view of teaching. But I could promise you, as somebody who worked on the inside, I saw people that are like, I was just touched by their willingness and dedication and time to make sure their students were learning. I think that's where, you know, teachers get frustrated a lot because they go into this profession, for the most part, most of them do, with these noble intentions, right? To educate kids, be part of their
change
lives.
the world.
All that stuff. And then when things get in the way of that, they get pretty, you know, cranky. You know? I was like that. You know, said, you know, this is getting in the way of what I'm trying to do and what I want to be for these kids and all this other stuff. And
you know, when I was at DBU, working with a lot of early educators early in their career, they're excited about education, but then one thing they said is that education got in the way of them doing their job.
Well, it wasn't so much the curriculum and material. Because that's, you know, you know you're supposed to do that. It's all the paperwork and the procedures. And what got to me, it was all the interruptions in my schedule. Because I'm like, okay, I have this, I got to have a pace to get through AP U.S. History or AP Government. I had to, you know, hop to it and then would have, you know, some sort of, you know, meeting in the gym for all the students, or we had, you know, snow days, or we had blah, blah, blah. Pep rallies used to drive me crazy, you know, because, you know, they take up most of your morning. And of course, I always had my second period, half the band, drill team, et cetera. Oh, we have to leave early, Mr. Allard, you know, and then the third period it would have people coming in, straggling. Oh, the band director wanted to talk to us, and bullcorn. You just were loafing out in the hallway. But, you know, those are the things that get to you more than, in many ways, more than students themselves. You know.
So finding, you know, being an educator is a balancing act between, you know, your job with curriculum and lesson plans and with scheduling when it comes to the events for the school, but then also trying to manage just students in general and all of the other stuff they have going on outside of school, which I think is a great educator is someone that's really good at that, because really what they do is they put the student at the top. I'm realizing that I may have a student that's coming in today that may not have gotten any sleep last night because they had to take care of their younger brother. So now they're coming in and and you learn that, but at the beginning of the year, it's not always, you're trying to figure out everything. And if you're a young teacher, you don't have that experience to be like, those, see the signs are the red flags. So I think finding ways to help how to help great teachers be great teachers and support them in their efforts to be great teachers. And those teachers that have a heart to be great teachers, but they're, they don't know exactly the ropes. So, and that's not necessarily a job for, I don't think, the school board. I think it's just working, just being able to let teachers know that they're seen and they're just not someone. I said like this, I think teachers are the grassroots of education. And what they do it matters so much. And we have to make sure that we encourage them and let them know it matters. Because without teachers, there's no education.
Yeah, you got that right. And, it is an emotionally straining job sometimes because you're dealing with, in many cases, very immature, not wrong or poorly managed kids, but immature personalities. They're, 15, 16-year-old kids, they're still not fully mature adults, but quite often they have fully mature adult problems they're having to deal with, and so that's a problem. Most of my students that had issues with school also were having issues outside of it. It wasn't like their home life was perfect and everything was great, and then at school they come and acted up. No, it was usually probably that period of time when they were in school was the most calm part of their day. And it was about the only day they're going to be around adults that wouldn't abuse them or beating them or, trash them or whatever you want to say. And so it's it's a whole lot more than just presenting material.
Absolutely.
And I was learning how to teach my last year. It was about my third year. After my third year, I finally figured out, here's how I wanted to approach a lot of things. And I felt like I was comfortable enough in the classroom. But even into the very end, it's like, I was always constantly having to be re-educated.
And let me make sure, no way am I speaking as an educator or professional educator. I do have a heart because teaching is tough. And I've never been in the K through 12 classroom, but all of my friends, and when I was going to school and seeing the struggles that they had, I was like, oh, Lord. I think I'd rather go to war.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this last time too. If I had a magic wand, I'd have the funding that we could hire enough teachers that we wouldn't have to have large classrooms. Because that to me is the number one issue in any school district is the classrooms are just getting bigger because the budgets aren't able to accommodate the growth in our system. DFW is growing all over. And they're not all coming from, California like people think. I mean, they're coming from all over the world, literally. And we educate all kids regardless of documentation status, and I'm fine with that. It's all good to me. But it does present certain issues, and your classes are getting bigger and bigger. You have more and more kids that have special needs, and I just think that's where the biggest reforms need to be made. Isn't so much in curriculum, because we have professionals like Leanne that take care of that kind of thing, but what we need, the biggest reform I would be is smaller class sizes so we can have more adequate attention to the students.
I agree. Smaller class sizes because students learn at different paces. Different students struggle in different areas. And sometimes the students that are perceived to handle it well are some of the students that are struggling the most.
Right.
And sometimes you don't find it out until it's too late. And I think with a smaller class size, you can have more eyes on, okay, Johnny, like you're doing a lot better, but I see that you're struggling here. How can we help? But you can't give that attention when you have 30 kids in the classroom.
Well, and plus you take 30 kids in a traditional classroom, you got about 5 different subpopulations, from special ed to mostly disturbed, maybe, to gifted and talented, to on and on and on. I mean, to English as second language, which is becoming more and more of an issue in every school system in Texas. And it's like you're teaching to 5 audiences in the same room.
And no way can you effectively teach that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't write a lesson plan.
Well, for me, when I was teaching mostly seniors and I had that kind of audience, a lot of these kids by this point were used to it. And so they could work, through these problems. But my last 2-3 years, I started getting students south of the border, shall we say, without documentation. And that was an experience for me personally. and they were so glad to be in an educational setting. They're very grateful. They treated me with great respect. But their English was terrible, of course, and my Spanish, my Spanish wasn't any good. I'm sorry, Senora Bove, back in 10th grade, I should have paid more attention. But, I had to overcome language barriers. And even though we have a process, a class for them, it was still, you had to accommodate.
You just have to find a way with smaller class sizes, so each student can get the specialized attention that they need, which is a struggle when you have a growing district. And this is more of a problem when you're, I think, for your elementary up through middle school class schools.
Well, it's interesting. So that a lot of the publisher materials are bilingual. So you could, if you want to print stuff off, you could do it in Spanish. And when I hand something out, I'd have like 4 or 5 copies in Spanish for them. I could print my PowerPoints off in Spanish, and I gave them copies so they could, while I'm doing my thing, they could kind of follow along, and that helped. But that takes time, and it takes, and then you have to deal with the IEPs, the special ed formats. Like I had a couple that had eyesight problems, so I had to make this really extra big copy of everything for them, and that's fine. That's the job, but it takes time, Yeah. So, that's why I think if you had smaller classes, that would be alleviated to some degree.
Yeah, and being able to, because it's with students who have a 504, they can get pulled out for the special attention that they need. So I am for smaller class sizes, which means that we have to sometimes reallocate.
Right. But, and raising taxes, state of Texas makes that very, very difficult to raise taxes. And even if you were inclined to do so, you have to go through the community and doing it. Last time I remember they had a tax referendum. It was, I believe, 2010, around that period. It lost by 8 votes. It'd be a tough pull.
Yeah, and then with the housing prices as it is, we'll end up pricing people out of our community. So it's a struggle on both things.
Right. I've been talking to a couple of city council candidates about that, and next week I have Mr. Johnson on. I'm going to ask him about that because we don't in a situation that the teachers can't afford to live in the town to teach in.
Right.
That kind of thing. But when you talk to somebody who doesn't have kids in the system and maybe never has, they moved here after the kids are grown or something like that, and they're kind of wondering, should I even be concerned at all about the schools? I mean, I don't have any contact with them. What do you tell them?
I tell them you definitely should be concerned about the schools because the quality of schools impacts the quality of your community.
Absolutely.
So your vote, and most times they say, well, I don't vote because of that reason. I said you should definitely vote because the people on the school board making decisions for the quality of the schools, and they're impacting the schools. Or as Shandy always points out, it is what drives people. When we were looking for one reason why we live out here is because of the quality of the schools. Because we looked in several other places, and about the housing prices was about the same, but the quality of schools, and then just this community as a whole. Which I have to say, I have experienced. Some people that I would have probably never experienced if I wouldn't run from this office.
Right.
And the reaction has been mind-blowing. Like, this community is a really amazing community. Because a lot of times you have your preconceived ideas about people. And then when I go up to and knock to their door, they peep through the
yeah.
And then we start talking, and they be like, wow. So this is really giving an opportunity to realize, and then meeting with the churches and there are people in this community who care, that genuinely care about each other in the community.
I believe it to be true. Absolutely. I mean, we can get distracted with some of the junk that goes on in a political campaign and whatnot, but we have a tremendous amount of people that are serving others. A lot of nonprofits, a lot of churches, whatnot, and so we're a blessed community. Regardless of some of the elbow throwing you see on Facebook, I still think that we are well above average, if you will, in terms of the quality of our community. And that helps a bunch. I do get a little bit crazy when people who don't have connections with the schools say, why do I need to pay taxes? Or why should I even bother to vote? Like, oh, geez, what makes this community desirable for you, in part, a large part, is because of the quality of schools.
Right.
If our schools were junk, so would your property values.
Yeah, and going back to kind of that, so then I'll tell them, that's the reason why they moved here for this community. Because the community is really, the schools are just the makeup of the people in the community. And I just have to say, I've just been so impressed by some of the doors I've knocked on, and just some of the families I've had the opportunity to speak with. It made me even more proud to be out in this community.
Every candidate should, I think, have an area of focus. Of course, you will be asked to focus on everything, but all the candidates, would be the board or the council, should have this is what I want to specialize in, if you will. What would that be for you?
I've been talking about dads,
right?
Finding a way to get dads more involved, whether it's through mentoring, whether it's through being active in their own children's education if they don't have children, being a surrogate father for someone else, because we have a lot of young men. I'm going to for a moment just going to kind of focus on young men in our community, and this came from me talking with coaches at the different schools. One conversation I was having, I said, how is it that a young man can go into his regular English, math, whatever classes, and have behavior issues, but when it comes to football or basketball practice or whatever sport the coach tells him do it, and he aligns right, he jumps right to it, is because something in him is longing for that guidance and that discipline. And whether he has a father in the home or whether he doesn't have a father in the home, that coach kind of becomes that role model, becomes that mentor for him. And he aligns with that because it connects with something that's internal with him. And when we have those type of programs, those type of people, personally, I'm a product of that. I had coaches, I had mentors, because I was a pretty of a knucklehead. I think I told you this the last time I was here.
Yeah, you did.
But it was because they invested in me to help me realize that, hey, if you're disciplined, I'm gonna discipline you, but I'm also gonna show you that I love you, and I'm gonna discipline you in love so that you can become a contributing member to society. So that one day you might be able to run and win the school board election for Burleson High School Place 4.
There you go.
But it was because of them that I am able to forego some of my knucklehead-ish ideas when I was younger to become this man that I am today. And that's kind of my mantra. How can we be that for other young men who may realize that I know I need something. It's something missing in my life. I don't play sports. I'm not in any creative arts. I'm not in any extracurricular activities. But there's still something in me that says, "Hey, I need to do better. I need to be a better young man."
Right.
So that's really what I'm pushing for.
Well, it is very unusual for me to have problems with athletes because of that, what you just referred to. I mean, it wasn't because I had that in my pocket that I could go tell your coach and it can run you till you die kind of thing, even though I did avail myself of that a couple of times. But it was just that, if they were involved in school, I mean, I had a lot of kids in choir and band, and a lot of kids in athletics or other artistic endeavors in like drama and such. And anybody who thinks that is not a valuable part of education is nuts, because I promise you, algebra has very limited appeal. But if you have play football or you dance or whatever else, you'll do your homework and get learned in algebra whether you like it or not. So
I was a choir geek in high school, and I went to state and choir. Shout out to Polytechnic High School in Fort Worth. And I was the only student in my senior class that went to state and choir. I wasn't a great athlete, despite this amazing physique that I had.
This Adonis-like body.
These shoulders, I was not a great athlete, but music was my thing. So that kind of helped me stay out of trouble. My coaches still stayed on my backside to make sure that I did what I was supposed to do. But yes, absolutely. If you're involved in school, you're less likely to have problems in school.
Well, unfortunately we're bumping up against the clock, so you'll have the last word. Tell us why we should vote for Caleb Mitchell.
You should vote for Caleb Mitchell because I'm the best candidate.
There you go. You can't beat that.
But most importantly, I believe in this district. This district has been great to my students. My students, which my children, who are students, and I currently have my last baby girl, who's a sophomore at Burleson High School, and I believe that if we all work together, I don't have an agenda. I believe there's 6 other people that I'm going to have to work with so that we can ensure that education remains the main thing in this district. I will leave with this. I do have a meet and greet tomorrow at Doughboy Donuts from 9 to 10.
Okay.
So feel free to come through and get you a donut and say hello and shake my hand and smile and get a picture with me and my amazing beard.
There you go. Wow. And that's pictures with the candidate, donuts. What can you say? How can you beat that? That's a good thing.
And no, I'm not Santa Claus.
No. Well, by the way, I want to throw out another meet and greet from 5 to 7 at Bailey Park. There's pizza involved, so that's an incentive for Ronnie Johnson and Larry Scott. So if you're hearing this live, you might want to check that out as well. But Mr. Mitchell, I really appreciate you coming. And I wish you the best of luck. I know if we talked about earlier about all 3 of your candidates are high quality, and so I'm at peace about who wins. But I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And if things don't work out the way you want, please consider next year.
I definitely will.
Okay, good. And so, schedule for next week: Ryan Richardson is on Monday for place 3 candidate and incumbent. Shandy will be here on Tuesday, and then Ronnie Johnson on Thursday. So set your calendars, and we'll see you then.